We are now around 2 to 3 weeks until Cyberpunk 2077 is released. And with the previous Night City Wire that we had, which was also the last one until the release of Cyberpunk, they did say that there will be reviews coming out. Journalists that have had round about 15 to 20 hours of game time where they give out their opinions based on the game. So this is our first proper insight to the release build where we get to see pros and cons. Before I do get into the video, if you do want to see me streaming this game live when it does release on December the 10th, there is a link in the description down below which will take you over to the Twitch stream. I am looking to be streaming daily, so if that is of interest to you, head over to there, drop a follow, and you'll be notified the second these streams start up. Getting back into the video, these gaming journalists got around 15 hours of game time spread across 2 separate days. And with this, I am very jealous, but they did give out some very good reviews without spoiling too much of the story. Some of these journalists were part of the 4-hour gameplay demo a few months back, so they also tell you how the game has improved. From what I've read, it does look like this is the release build of the game as well as the build that was due to release before the delay. So these are the most latest up-to-date builds of Cyberpunk 2077. But I will still say that just bear in mind that reviews before a release are not always exact. Some journalists will provide overly positive reviews only for it to flop with fans on the release. A good example of this is IGN with Anthem. Very positive post about how they loved the game only for the game to flop on release with fans. This isn't me attacking journalists as well. Art is subjective and games are a form of art. What one person loves, another person would hate. So just because one journalist says this doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to feel the exact same way. But what this does do is give a little insight to the release builds. With these articles that I'm going to be reading off, which will be PC Gamer, IGN and Games Radar, PC Gamer was also able to have a 4-hour demo previous to this a few months back. And they did end up saying that they were hungry for more. It was a very positive review. Now with the 15-hour playthrough that they've just had, they went through main story missions and a few side missions, and ended up being a cyber samurai using a katana that so many players are excited to use. The article straight away highlights how melee weapons can be a playstyle. It says, swords in Cyberpunk 2077 aren't just melee weapons you fall back on when you're out of ammo. They can be that, but they also can be an entire playstyle. Sword specific perks include slow and steady, which increases your armor as you sprint, letting you close in on enemies without being shot to pieces, and Deathbolt restores your health and increases your movement speed at the moment you kill someone with any bladed weapon. And CD Projekt Red have always said how you can shape your path. This is a role-playing game, and part of the choices that you can make to fit your playstyle is deciding which weapons that you want to have. It would be pointless labeling this as a role-playing game where you get to pick what you want to do, but having one weapon that is so much more powerful than other weapons because you might as well just go for that weapon. This is an example of using a katana, but this will be spread out across other weapons because we have seen parts of the skill tree which does show that you can buy and invest skill points into different types of weapon categories. PC Gamer also highlights Cyberpunk taking on its RPG potential, as it shows the choices the player can make for their playstyle and not having to stick to one weapon, because it's the only weapon powerful enough to take out enemies. What also backs this up is PC Gamer said they did a mission really early on where they need to sneak into an Arasaka warehouse to infect a computer system with a virus. Because they went for the katana and being stealthy, that's the approach that they took within the mission. They were able to go in and go out without firing a single bullet. But depending how you play the game, you can go in and go out in a completely different way. It should also be highlighted that PC Gamer went for the corporate V life path, and for the beginning you do deal with a lot of other corporate types, so you're not limited just because you go for a specific life path in which type of weapons that you could use. We've talked about it here on the channel before, how you pick your life path depending who you actually want to deal with in the game. If you do want to deal with mega corporations such as Arasaka and Militech, then it makes sense to go for the corporate life path, whereas if you want to be dealing with different types of gangs within Night City, it makes more sense for you to go Street Kid. But those choices don't limit you to what type of weapons you can use and what you can actually put skill points into. And this article definitely highlights that. Although in here it does say that corporate V was described as a bit of an arsehole, but was also said that V needs to be that way as a means to an end. Dealing with other corporates, V taps into their past and suddenly becomes cold to cut through the BS. And this is the lasting effect of a life path you pick at the beginning, and even though CD Projekt Red have spoken about this a lot, it's nice to see other people confirming it. So there's a lot of good stuff there. But this is where we go over to the criticisms. So PC Gamer said this: "I have a few criticisms. The on the rail shooting section usually involves someone driving a car and B hanging out the window, firing at pursuing bikes, cars and drone. Feel clumsy and outdated, like a hangover from the previous generation." Another criticism is the number of jobs you have forced into your quest log. Even if you didn't actively seek them out, can feel overwhelming. As someone who likes to keep a quest log prune and manageable, I foresee a lot of headaches here. And constant chatter, text messages, phone calls and other audio distractions constantly competing for your attention can be mentally exhausting. So those are the criticisms from PC Gamer, but also goes on to say how this was just 15 hours and it could be different criticisms in 20, 30 or 200 hours of game time. But all in all, this is a fairly positive review of 15 hours. The end of the article saying, "I really can't wait to go back to Night City. From the moment I stopped playing Cyberpunk 2077, it's been rattling around in my thoughts, and I'm already planning what I'll do first when the game is finally released on December the 10th. The next review comes from IGN, and straight away starting off, IGN talk about how long it took for them to reach actual opening title card of the game. They said that it took them roughly 6 hours of playing. Now I'm sure this isn't just going mission after mission after mission after mission. I'm sure within this there could be a bit more exploring, taking time to see what's around, but that is a lengthy start to the game just to introduce you to everything. IGN also go on to say, "I feel like I only just started to scratch below the surface of what's here. Night City is dense and stunning, and this mammoth RPG is packed with a multitude of mechanics to explore and a copious amount of choice in doing so. These can range from locations where the NCPD simply needs someone to deal with a few gang members, to items or data that needs retrieving, to more elaborate missions that could span multiple areas. And that's in addition to your story-driven main quest lines, the more personal side missions that break off them, and niche activities like bare-knuckle boxing fights or finding special murals hidden around. Cyberpunk 2077 hands you a shopping list of stuff and just says go. And this is empowering in a way only open world RPGs can really enable. So IGN have highlighted how much is there with the game. 6 hours of opening gameplay up until you actually see the title card pop up, going all the way to being within Night City with the amount of stuff that we can do. And with this actually isn't too surprising, but is reassuring. We've seen within the 48-minute gameplay that was released a few years ago, even back then there was a lot of stuff to do. IGN do highlight that at the beginning of the game though, combat starts off slow, but becomes more addictive once you start getting a few more abilities. And this was also kinda expected. No matter the life path you pick, you are starting from the bottom, and the goal is to become a legendary merc within Night City. CD Projekt Red told us about the progression, how V will get better and better as you play. So the beginning of the game will be the slowest part of combat. Moving on from criticisms from IGN, they say this: "Unfortunately, like I said before, with a game this broad, there are bound to be some rough edges. And while the quests themselves are entertaining, the way they are managed is probably one of the roughest things I saw. Cyberpunk 2077's quest log is a big messy list, and figuring out which of the many quests to pursue next is a hassle for a few reasons. There's no indication of XP, money, items or street cred a quest will reward. No sense of how difficult a quest will be beyond a vague danger description, like moderate, high or very high, when an actual level number would have let me decide if I should try to punch slightly above my weight or not." So this is a complaint that was also briefly mentioned on the PC Gamer review. They didn't go as in depth, but here we can actually start to see some problems with Cyberpunk. The quests themselves and what they've played so far has got a lot of compliments. They're very fun and enjoying quests. It's just how they are actually managed that's the problem. The menu system where you select what you want to do next. IGN also got a build of the game that was done before the most recent delay, and this was reported to have a lot of bugs with the version they played. They do go on to say that they were glad that Cyberpunk got delayed, so that CD Projekt Red can fix some of these issues. So we will have to wait and see whether or not the most recent delay did give them enough time to fix some of these issues. But I should also point out at this point that no matter what they do actually fix, there will always be bugs on a game release. This is something that should not be a surprise. What's the most important thing is that day one patch, as well as after that day one patch, if these issues still persist within the game, how long it will take CD Projekt Red to actually get round to fix them. But at the end here, IGN still finish off by saying this: "Even still, I came away from my 16 hours with Cyberpunk 2077 hungry for more. And with the sense that I had certainly had more to feed that hunger. It's rad as hell, a gorgeous world you can get absolutely lost inside of in precisely the manner you choose to do so. It's certainly not without its rough edges, especially when it comes to its menus, but those blemishes didn't do too much to stop what it does well from shining brightly. Even after 2 days, I feel like I've only barely started to see what's here, and it's only got more exciting the deeper I went. So this counts as another very positive review. Very similar to the PC Gamer pre-release review, they did only have 15 hours, so if you were able to play 20, 30 or even more hours, more criticisms will probably arise. But out of what has been played, the biggest issues are a menu system and the bugs that still exist within the game. The final review to go through for this video is from GamesRadar. Within this one, they talk more about the decisions that are made and not so much about the whole positives of the game as well as the negatives about the game. This one was just interesting to me because of how far the branching dialogue goes. GamesRadar start off by saying that even though they had 2 full days of playing Cyberpunk 2077, it's been difficult to grasp how far the web spreads with a single conversation, from one answer to another. It doesn't help that they're often subtly in the difference between the answers that you can give. Sometimes when being in a conversation, you'll have clear-cut opportunities to pick one side or the other. And by picking one of those sides, it will make the other side maybe see you in a different light, which will give different options for you later, but other times it's not as black and white as that. They go on to say an optional objective in a mission may involve setting up an alternative meeting, or simply involving calling another character just to check in. But all of these have the potential to send objectives spinning in a widely different direction or uncover a hidden subplot that could influence your future choices. So this should be very exciting to see once Cyberpunk is finally released, how deep the branching dialogue will actually go. You also have to remember the choices that you have actually made before, because GamesRadar highlight that there's no Rolodex of character bios to flick through. If you want to know more, you'll have to find out more yourself. So that also means that you have to remember what you already know about specific characters. And it's not just limited to what you say to each and every character with the branching dialogue. Your actions also have consequences. Most games run along the line of kill and spare. This is very popular options in games, but CD Projekt Red have taken it deeper. GamesRadar says this: I delayed picking up the payment for one of the game's first missions from a fixer called Wakaku, and later on in a core mission, I was able to bring up my missing eddies as part of an entirely separate conversation. It's a small thing, but a huge part of how the world is created to feel utterly realistic and always reactive to V's actions. So not only do you have to be wary about what you say to specific characters, but you also have to be wary about what you do within the game. And it could go down to something as simple as collecting money for a job, which can then later be brought up in a branching dialogue, and that branching dialogue could also have consequences. And this was from a mission that was very early on. We still don't know exactly how this goes because yet again this was only about 15-16 hours of game time. This could lead into the number of different other side missions that you have linking into the core quest or even other side missions. So this would just be something a bit interesting to actually look at once Cyberpunk is released. But yet again, this was another review that was very positive, and even though it didn't talk about the whole game, the positives and the negatives, it did just look at a core feature being the branching dialogue system and your action having consequences. And this was a very, very positive review. At the bottom of this review, there is a paragraph that says this: after 16 hours, I reluctantly left Night City with some 30 odd side quests and gigs cluttering up my journal. So this does seem like it is a criticism for the 3 different articles that we've looked at, the 3 different reviews that we've looked at. So from what I've read so far, there's been a lot of positives with the world, of how many things that you can do within the world and how they all link to each other. We don't know exactly how far it goes, but we do know that there is a lot of depth there already. This also shows how much content's in the game, and also links to the 6 hour of gameplay that you have just at the beginning until you actually get the title screen come up to say that you're playing Cyberpunk 2077. Everyone that has played the game so far have said that they're very hungry to play it again when it is finally released, and this can only be a positive thing. The choices that you make within the game do have an effect, and this can even go to the weapons that you decide to use. You can pick how you want to shape V as a character, going from customization, going all the way to life path, going all the way to the weapon loadouts and how you want to deal with each mission. The criticism so far from the 15 hours of review is that the quest log can be messy. The quests themselves have been reported to be extremely fun. But when deciding which quest you want to do next, there's no indication of how much XP, money or street cred you will be rewarded. There's also no indication to say how far you would have to travel for this next quest and where it is, until you actually select the quest, go back into the menu, select the map, only for you to see that the quest you've just selected is on the complete other side of the map, so you have to go back to the quest log for you to go and select the next quest. You would think with everything else that CD Projekt Red have done, with it being crazy in depth, that this would have had a bit more depth to it. And then the other criticism that has been made is that there is still quite a few bugs within the game for the build that they were playing. Now they have been playing on the release build that was set before the latest delay of the game. The game was delayed by another 21 days, and hopefully in that time CD Projekt Red were able to go and fix some of these issues. But I'm saying right now, and I did say a bit earlier, that they're not going to be able to fix every single issue. No matter who the game company is and no matter what the game, whether or not it's a AAA release or it's a small little indie game, there will always be bugs. The biggest thing is the day one patch, as well as also having patches within the future and how long it takes CD Projekt Red to actually act and fix these issues. But with going through absolutely everything that I've read so far, it is very, very positive. And we're really not too far away from actually playing this game ourselves now. But anyway guys, this is the pre-release review, and when Cyberpunk is actually released, once I manage to go and start the game and actually finish the game, I will probably be doing my own separate review. But from what I've read so far, things are looking very, very good, and I am very excited to get my hands on this game. If you do want to see me streaming this game when it does finally come out on December the 10th, there will be a link in the description down below which will take you over to the Twitch stream. Just head over to there, drop a follow, and you'll be notified the second these streams start up. Let me know in the comment section down below, are you happy with what's been said so far? I've left all the different reviews in the description down below, so if you do want to read a bit more, you can just click that link and it'll take you directly to the source. These are only just 3 that I've read from, and there's actually quite a few more out there. So if you do want some more, just type into Google Cyberpunk 2077 review and there will be quite a lot that will pop up. But anyway guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. But for now, I'm going. So see ya.